Franchising and third-party models can unlock scale, speed, and brand power, but only when alignment, execution, and owner trust come together. To guide this conversation, we have Mr. Amith Khanna, Head of Franchise, India, Middle East, and Africa, IHG Hotels and Resorts. With over 20 years of international hospitality experience, Amith is based in Dubai and currently oversees franchise growth and operations excellence across more than 170 operating hotels and nearly 100 in the pipeline across the region. Joining him on stage as panelists are Mr. Bani Haddad, founder and co-CEO at Aleph Hospitality, Mr. David Thomson, Senior Vice President, Development at First Group Hospitality, Mr. Mohamad Haj Hassan, Market Managing Director, Middle East and Africa at Wyndham Hotels and Resorts, and Mr. Tapan Piplani, Chief Operating Officer, Middle East and Commonwealth of Independent States at Valor Hospitality. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming them on stage.
Good afternoon, everyone. So apparently we are in between lunch. So apparently we need to build some appetite for lunch, right? So let's give our audience a topic for discussion for lunch. Are we all ready? Now, a lot of us are discussing things that we're really passionate about and how we are looking at the world towards franchising. Now, just to set the context in, the Middle East hospitality is growing a lot, especially around, well, capital is active, the ambition is high, the competition is intensifying. When we look at how the owners are choosing between an operating structure, it's no more talking about what the model should be. We're talking about how a strategic capital investment should be. Now, it brings in a lot of advantages for sure, whether it's control, capability, whether it's risk allocation, whether it's about performance. But the real discussion today is not just about where the capital is. It's always about how do we look at an execution of this operating model. So let's put our owner's cap on and let's look at our first question. If you're okay, Mohamad, maybe through you, and we can have some conversation and debates through also. So when you put an owner's hat on and when you look at what the brands are currently saying and doing from a strategic point of view, if you were to give an owner one single factor and advice to influence them between a direct franchising versus a third party, what would it be?
It is capability versus control. So it depends on the appetite. The first question usually we ask the owner is this his first project? You need to know exactly, the background in order for him to give him the right advice. Is he building hospitality operational platform or he's building real estate asset? If the client looking to build a hospitality operational platform, that means the franchise business model is the best for him. If the client is looking for real estate asset, then you go for the managed advice. But you need to assess, the owner, they need to assess themselves, their capability in terms of managing their assets. They have the expertise, they have the commercial engine, they have the local infrastructure. All these components, we need to ask the owner if he's ready, operational readiness can be or capable to manage his own asset. We are at Wyndham, we are the largest franchise company in the world, and we work with so many owners. And we can say that when the owner has the infrastructure and the commercial engine is there, they are outperforming. I'll give you an example. TFG, one of them, Aleph Hospitality, they are we partner in several projects, and we can see they outperform when you have a strong third-party operator. He has the expertise, he has the commercial engine, and you have the distribution as well from the franchisor side, that they have the distribution, they have the technology, they have the loyalty program. When you merge together, you know, it outperforms. But back to your question in terms of franchise versus third-party operator, I don't compare it this way to the owner. It's more into alignment. Nowadays, it's alignment rather than it's a comparison or preference. But 100%, if the owner does not have the infrastructure to manage his own asset, we recommend always for him. First of all, we offer our management platform because now we are growing in managed as well. We reach around 100 hotels as a managed. But some owners, they like to take control of their property. So having this in terms of control and responsibility, they prefer to work with third-party operator for flexibility and work for owner. It creates kind of a challenge between the franchisor and the third, because both will be accountable. One is for contribution and loyalty program, and the second one is distribution and loyalty program, and the second one in terms of performance, the bottom line.
Got it. All right. Thank you. Bani, any thoughts on this? Any light that you would like to pay
if I have to put my an owner's hat on and say what is the single most important criteria, it's the alignment of interest. You need a partner who is 100% aligned with you. You're building a hotel. A hotel is a real estate asset class. Every square meter has to deliver. So when you're looking at a partner, it's not just the top line, but it's the bottom line. And that's why, generally speaking, a franchise model is the perfect, with an independent hotel operator, such as Aleph, would provide the best interest for the owner in terms of alignment. You have a brand providing the distribution, the awareness, and you have an operator who's physically present on a daily basis to assist you generate not just additional revenue, but control your expenses and ultimately increase your bottom line.
Great. So you're saying alignment, and we spoke about capability here. So let's stay with you, Bani, on the whole control and capability. So owner often wants control.
All the time.
But they also want expertise, right? Now, where do you think owners overestimate themselves, and where do operators like yourselves overpromise? So if you were to look at between overestimating and overpromising, and maybe an element around what you think?
From our experience, a couple of things the owners overestimate. One, their capacity to build a hotel in a much shorter period of time than it usually takes, at a much lower budget than usually required. That's one aspect from a development point of view. Then operationally, a lot of owners underestimate the amount of work the operator has to undertake to properly manage the hotel on the long run. And that's why you see sometimes hotel owners who say, no, I'll manage it myself, I'll get a general manager, he'll do a good job. It unfortunately takes much more than that if you have a long-term vision on building and maintaining a quality asset. So these are the two areas I feel the owners sometimes are overly optimistic about. From an operator perspective, I think the overpromise often comes by saying, we're super owner-centric, we're going to be with you all the time, you're super important for us. And that happens, at the courting stage at the beginning until the hotel opens. And what we've done to counter that, and I've learned this from experience, is we've done two things. One, I cannot promise and manage a hotel, even in Saudi Arabia or where we have hotels in Morocco or South Africa, Cape Town. I cannot pretend to manage these hotels while sitting here in Dubai. It's impossible. So what we've done, the first thing we've done is we've opened regional offices for our teams to be closer to the owners, to the assets, but also to our team members. That's the first thing. The other thing we've done, which is super important, is we have appointed regional vice presidents in these areas who actually have a combined responsibility of not just growing our portfolio and selling our added value to the owners, but they're ultimately responsible for the delivery of the results. So they have both development and operational responsibility. I take the example recently, I just came back yesterday from Riyadh. Our regional vice president there signed a hotel, he opened it, and I can see he is super involved. He knows the P&L by heart. He has 4 operating hotels now, and he knows them all by heart, which is super important. There's nothing better for a hotel owner who's sitting in front of you and saying, you know that this person who's selling you, who's signing the hotel management agreement with you, is going to be the guy in charge of your delivery of the results.
So great. I think the first question was around where you think the owners can overestimate. Any example that you can share and what the cost was that really made that impact? So where the owners think they overestimate their own experience and it happened?
It happened a lot, and we have taken over actually a couple of hotels where the owners started operating themselves. They again thought that by hiring a general manager, an experienced general manager, it would run by itself, which is most of the time true. You can find really good people who will operate, but after 2-3 years, ambitious general managers will move on. Yeah. And once they move, it starts crumbling. The business, and then they call us, and so we had a couple of examples in Africa, mostly Morocco, North Africa, and East Africa, where we had to take over existing operations, and then it becomes much, much harder to fix because when you have an operator like Aleph, at least you have checks and balances. You have systems that are being implemented at the hotel level. You have succession planning at all levels, not just the general manager.
Great. Thank you. And David, what are your views and thoughts on it?
Well, look, I think managing owner expectations is probably the hardest thing that everybody has to do when it comes to third-party operating. Every owner wants to see very, very quick returns. We all know that it takes 3 or 4 years to get to stabilization. They're looking for shorter and shorter term contracts, particularly with operators. And, and this obviously puts a lot of pressure on the ability to deliver. So from our point of view, it's really being fully transparent. If you don't have a very open and transparent relationship with the owner, where a lot of people will still to this day provide 5-year projections which are unrealistic in order to win a piece of business. And that's something that we feel very strongly about, that if we cannot support what we're putting forward financially, then we certainly don't want to be going through the door to operate a property. And taking really to Bani's point, making sure that you're offering economies of scale so that you do have country managers or regional managers that are looking after a variety of properties, able to provide expertise that doesn't have to be actually on site, but can actually look after 2 or 3 or 4 properties at a time. Having centralized services, which can be, we have a reservation office sitting in Cairo, which looks after the 12 properties that we're presently running. And these sort of things are things that independent operators or owners trying to do it themselves, they just can't bring that to the party. So we recently looked at a project where we were able to go to the owner and show him, he was running several hotels, that we could actually make a 7.5 million dirham saving on payroll by centralizing what he was doing. And I think this is the sort of thing that we can bring in from a cost perspective, and in terms of just making sure that you're bringing efficiencies into the process. And that's something that a third-party operator can do, which an owner can't do on his own, for sure.
Brilliant. So you're talking about economies of scale and how that can benefit through. Let's stay with you.
May I just add something on this, Amith?
Sure.
On the owner side, I think the advisory service initially is underrated and underutilized currently. There is an opportunity for the right advice on capital expenditure, opening timelines that Bani was alluding to, performers that David's mentioned. And in my experience and in our experience, that's where the misalignment actually starts. And I think it is important, whether it is brand managed, franchised, as an industry, I think as hoteliers, it's our job and duty to kind of bring that to light and speak to the owners about it and be very open in that conversation initially. Because if you are able to fix that, gap, this misalignment right at the very beginning, I think everybody wins.
Great, thanks, Tapan. And let's stay with you, David, for a minute. When you spoke about economies of scale, and perhaps one of the elephants in the room is about fees. And I'm not just talking about the headline fees of base management, incentive, between brand and between third party. Where do you think are the real costs that the owners underestimate, and what model delivers better? And when I say model, it's between a direct franchise versus third party.
Look, I think someone very wise recently said to me, if you buy a Ferrari, then you can drive it. Of course you can. But if you really want to drive that properly, you're going to have to turn to an expert to show you how to do it. And I think that's exactly what we're talking about here. Yes, of course, an owner can hire a general manager, can bring in a team and run that. But what he doesn't have is the depth of experience, which is something that we bring to the table. And and I'm talking about everybody sitting here. You've also got a situation where to make the most out of a franchise agreement, you have to be able to understand the various programs and opportunities that are available to you through the brand. And what you do see in many cases, and we've seen this already, is where when a brand comes in, there's the initial, as you say, the initial fees, then you have the loyalty program fees and a few other fees, which are expected with bookings and reservations. But the real benefit of having an operator in there to do it for the owner is that they can make the most out of all the various other opportunities that the brand has to offer. And I know that when we went into one property which was already with a brand, we were able to significantly improve the bottom line because we were able to make the most of what that operator had to offer, because we understood the brand had to offer, because we understood the brand. We worked with the brand, we know the brand well, and that is a huge difference that an operator, it takes many years to actually really get that sort of expertise. And it is the expertise that we bring to the table that makes the difference, for sure.
Oh, great. So you're saying expertise. From a brand's perspective, Mohamad, what do you think?
First of all, Ferrari being brought twice today. In the morning with Dimitri and now with David. Maybe we should ask for a premium because, we publish the Ferrari brand. So if we talk about the cost, yes, sure, there is a hidden cost. The first thing when you sit with the owner, he starts talking, how much the fees? Negotiating percentage for the fees, but the real is not about the fees. Like I'm giving you a car for $5,000 and then you don't know what is the running cost of that car. So there is a hidden fees. Hidden fees could be, into 3 or 4 major points. One of them is the brand standard, maintaining the standard. Secondly, the commercial. There's, costs are involved. The capex, which they don't take it into consideration, many owners. And you have as well the payroll, the efficiency. If you doesn't have the experience in hiring the right people, and let's say this hotel, 100 rooms, it should, if we take a formula of 0.60 employees, he come and they hire 80 people, or he hire 20 people. So the impact of this, it comes with a cost because the turnover will be high. There is turnover cost. There is, when it comes to digital marketing, nowadays, before, it's not like before, I send you by fax, book me a room. Now there is system, there is technology are involved. We at Wyndham, we spend, for the past years, $375 million on technology. Sometimes they ignore technology because now everything is integrated and interfaced with the international global dynamic business. So you need to invest on it in order for you to gain the market share.
Got it.
So they don't take it in consideration, unfortunately, but this is considered as a hidden cost.
Great. I think to build on Tapan, I think perhaps one of the easiest questions in the panel today. If a hotel underperforms, who's truly responsible? And when I say that, there are 2 or 3 prong approach, right?
I am.
So how should the owners protect themselves? That's contractually, that's first part of it. And then the second is this a shared accountability between a third-party operator, a brand, or the owners responsible for it?
It's a very simple, straightforward, non-political answer. Performance accountability sits with the party that controls the levers of delivering that performance. We as a third-party operator, we encourage franchise model working with brands because distribution, brand logo, valuations are all important for owners. However, we never start a negotiation or an LOI or an HMA before running the numbers. And I think it is very important for the owners to understand what this means for them because of the previous question as well, which is fees. So from our standpoint at Valor, we think performance accountability needs to be earned, not assumed. Clarity in KPIs from the very onset is very important. We actually attach performance to our HMAs to make sure that we are held accountable for what's going to happen over the next 5, 7, 10 years, depending on the contract. And we also request the owners to give us the tools so that we can deliver that performance. Because if the levers of delivery are going to be controlled by the owners, then it is very difficult to hold me accountable. But as long as it's a partnership, as long as it's honest collaboration, I think everybody wins. And performance accountability eventually sits with the operator. It sits with us. We do not hide behind disclaimers. Disclaimer is a subtext, not a main text in the contract, which used to be what used to happen traditionally in other models. So we hold ourselves accountable to performance. There are clear benchmarks in there, and we deliver.
Bani, what clause do you think the owners should be insisting on with every contract?
In relation to the performance?
Yes.
Performance test. There's nothing better than that. And if you want to take it to another level, giving them the flexibility in terms of being able to terminate on sale, like we heard yesterday, is another very important clause. The philosophy for us is to say it's not our money. We're here to render a service, and it's important for the owner to have this flexibility. But on the who's responsible for the actual performance? Obviously, it's the operator, mostly, to a large extent. What we do, however, put a focus on is what are the tools that we put in place to ensure that the hotel is performing. And it starts with the selection of the brand. 100%. This is when we start. So we have a team that is actually in charge of running not an operator search, but a brand search. And the first question we typically get from owners is, okay, what do you think is the best brand here? I don't know. No, but you work with all of them. Which one? I don't know. We will have to dig, into the details of your project, the location, etc. And we run this exercise from scratch every time. And every time we surprise ourselves with the findings. So it starts there. The importance of you as brand is crucial to the success of the project, because at the end of the day, your delivery is very, very important to the success. Following that, the processes that we put for our sales team, for our general manager, the follow-ups that we have on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, the KPIs, etc., this is our responsibility as an operator.
No, can I? Yeah.
Go ahead.
But I think you made a very good, important point. You cannot, give the brand a free pass on when you do a third-party operated contract. So in a franchise situation, Lana made a very good point yesterday. When you sign, say, a 15 or 20-year franchise agreement, at the moment there's no escape clause. So that's because the operator is held responsible, when it's the third-party operator, for the results, and therefore there's no performance test that applies to the franchise agreement. But from our perspective, and we've got two people here that understand that, we're very, very keen on really saying to the brand, what can you do for us, and what can you do for the product and for the owner? And I think that is really important, that we're aligned as a brand and as an operator before we go into a property, to know what it is that's going to be delivered from a distribution point of view, from GSO, from all the things that the brand is responsible for.
So can I be truthful? I'm not convinced with one thing. And the question was, if you look at your day-to-day operations are run by a third party, and the risk, which is financially, is by the owner, whose accountability is it?
Just to add to what David and Bani have said, termination is not the answer. Firstly, performance failure should never come as a surprise. And we encourage our owners and everybody in this room here that the contract should actually have oversight mechanisms, very strong oversight mechanisms, which is monthly reviews, quarterly reviews with the owners, involving the formats for those reviews, what will be shared, what should be shared, what they should be made aware of, real-time reporting, budget adherence and the variances to it. And there should be an opportunity to fix this. And what we try and build in is an early warning system. Well, it's pretty dangerous to talk about early warning systems, but put in an early warning system within the business to make sure that any red flag that is going to come up for non-performance comes up pretty early and it can be fixed. Because we do go through seasons, we do go through seasonality. So if there is a dip in the lean months, then the owner should be able to see that very clearly, and we should be able to have that open discussion, and they should actually know how it's going to be fixed over the next quarter or the quarter after. And that is where I think, again, it's all about alignment. We've all spoken about it. Comes in that we are actually actively showing to the owners how we're going to achieve the budgets that we had promised.
Great.
Short answer, the operator is it's under a franchise model. I mean, we shouldn't beat around someone is giving you the key to his hotel or her hotel, and
thank you for transparency. Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're responsible.
Great.
But it's our role to go after the brand, and if the brand is not delivering enough, it's our role to challenge the brand. Yeah. It's our role to challenge the general manager. It's our role to challenge the director of sales, whatever. But ultimately, it's the operator. That's why we're being paid.
I remember one of the sessions, Bani, you spoke about the whole tripod, right, between the brand, the third-party operator, and the owners, and how the synergy has to come in if you really want this model to be successful. But Mohamad, let's stay on the question on speed and ramp-up of performance, right? Now, which model do you think stabilizes the hotel faster post-opening or post-conversion? Typically, a lot of franchise that you get are conversion hotels, between direct franchising versus third-party operator.
Definitely the conversion, for sure. The conversion is, first of all, the time play role. It's when you have a professional third-party operator is plug and play, because they have the expertise, they have the commercial engine, and then from the brand side perspective, they have the distribution, they have the technology, they have loyalty program. So the ramp up definitely will be faster than as a new post-opening new project. The post-opening new project is, you need to consider as well the timeline for the commercial ramp-up. The commercial ramp-up takes, if you don't have the experience and you don't have the right team for especially the commercial engine and the people who are into managing, especially because, during the opening, the first thing is, you depend on the online booking. Conversion, you have existing customers, you change the brand, you bring in third-party operator. In new property, it will take 12 to 36 months to have this commercial ramp-up. During this period...
So which model do you say? Is it
the conversion for sure.
No, conversion with third-party or conversion with direct franchise?
And, is all about who are on the ground managing the property. If in the ground, the existing team, you need to assess it. If the existing team, they have the know-how and they are experienced, it's better to keep them. Why? Because they know their customers, they know their accounts, they know everything. All what you need, it's plug and play. It comes the brand, He deployed the system and then run the property. So time and you assess the existing team. If it's not, and you feel the hotel has a bad history in terms of performance, then yes, you plug in you recommend the third-party operator, because already they have the expert team, and everybody can move on directly.
So let's do a reality check here, Tapan. Share with us an example where there was post-opening or post-conversion where the third party was a preferred model.
So look, the best thing to come out of this short discussion and conversation with this question is that you didn't even bring up the management model, because brand managed model obviously doesn't perform as well on conversions as franchise and third-party management does. And it is not to blame anyone or put anyone in a spot. Brands are fantastic for distribution and for putting the location, the hotel onto the map. But what Valor and third-party operations does is that it actually makes sure that the execution is great. Because execution is king. And for us, stabilization is not about RevPAR optics. It's not about 110 RGI score, 115. It's about cash flows. Our focus is how quickly can you get to a point where the owner doesn't have to dip into their pocket and put money to finance a working capital. And in that model, we have track record to show that within 3 months of opening a hotel, with a conversion from a brand managed to a franchise, change of brands, we've been able to stabilize cash flows well enough to make sure that the owners don't have to dip into the pocket and the business can sustain itself. It's happened in Africa, we've done it in Middle East, and the numbers speak for themselves. What I would encourage the owners in the room to do is to look at the MIS. We report data on hotstats, and it's a great tool for people to use, wherein you can actually select the properties, look at selective groups and see what the GOP numbers and EBITDA numbers are over the last 24 months. You'll be able to see the variance and difference on how third-party managed assets actually perform better, stabilize better, perform better.
There is one thing, which I disagree with Tapan. I must say that I want to be honest. The managed platform from operator, you deploy them. If the owner agreed to go to HMA for conversion, definitely will be outperforming. In the past, we have several projects conversion as managed, and we can see and we witnessed, because, third-party operators cannot compete with big companies who has a huge platform for managed and the expertise. So both, I must say that, it worked, but they managed as well. Once they step in, does not mean they will be underperforming. They will do even better because they have the data.
Sorry to break the news, but we do compete.
Yeah, no, I was just...
No, I was just going to wade in on that. Fact, it's a fact. So you have a huge platform. You have the manpower.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I mean, just to sort of answer that, when it's okay, I'm not going to name names, honestly.
I'm teasing Tapan.
But no, when we set up a hotel management company and converted from some of our properties that were under HMAs to franchise, look, in the first 12 months of operating, we saw a 40% improvement on the bottom line. So, I think if you've got the right structure in place, you've got the right distribution in place, you have the right, using the brand properly, I think there's, in my opinion, I don't think there's any question that a third-party operator is more flexible, more agile, is more, in tune with the market that they're operating in. And I think, with the right expertise and the right technology, yeah, we can outperform brands. That's my opinion.
With all due respect to the brand, I'll tell you, I don't know of any international brands like Wyndham or Marriott or who has regional offices, for example, like we have with people on the ground, where in 21 countries we have 5 regional offices in the Middle East and Africa with people who are empowered to make decisions immediately. If you tell me one company who has this,
I will tell you offline,
So the platform that you're talking about, the platform you're talking about is a distribution platform, which we love, by the way. It's standards, it's product. Yes, that's amazing. And we cannot compete with that, and we don't want to compete with that.
It's only one thing he mentioned it, is flexibility during conversion. Can help, which you can find it with the managed. We've done several projects, in the past, and it works well. Now, the debate who is better here.
It's not about better. No, it's not better.
No, this is Tapan, what he mentioned,
It's just that we do things differently.
Yes.
We do things differently. We have different, focus. Your focus is the brand, and we love you for that. That's why we pay you franchise fees.
At the beginning,
great, I have lots of questions, and I'm sure everybody wants to continue with the conversation on, so we will keep the debate moving on. But Bani, quickly on you, in terms of asset types, do you think the operating model differs, when you were to look at luxury, upscale resort, or is it brand agnostic? Is it model agnostic, or what do you think?
Well, it's brand agnostic, but it's not class asset agnostic positioning. What we've done recently, we've taken our portfolio of 50 hotels and we've created three bands, basically. Just to be able to give the tools for our management teams on the ground to focus on what is really important for for their type of hotels. I was just giving the example earlier on for someone telling him, we cannot ask for 100 keys or 90 keys, 3-star hotel, to give us the same amount of work as 700 keys that we have in Dubai, which is on 5-star level. We cannot have the same approach to a luxury boutique hotel that we have, for example, in Morocco, as a mainstream Holiday Inn, let's say. It's the guest journey is different. The guest expectations are different. The owner's expectations are different. So we've done a lot of work for that, in order to facilitate the work of our teams, but also to drive the highest value of each specific asset.
Got it. Great. So let's stay back on exit value and liquidity, David. In terms of the investor's exit perspective, which model enhances the value and liquidity?
I think, in my opinion, obviously the third-party operator model, because you're driving a better bottom line. I think that has to obviously, impact on the investor returns. It's pretty clear, really. But so yes, I would say that's certainly a better model. And I think also, we talk about flexibility. The third-party operator model is far more flexible. In terms of, so not only we're driving a better bottom line, but if there is an issue, generally it's much easier to fix with people on the ground than it is to fix with a major brand. Obviously, the legalities, it becomes very litigious, etc., etc. And I think when you're dealing with the third-party operator, if they're not delivering, I think obviously it's much easier to come to an agreement how you solve that than it is on a bigger brand scale, and that all adds value to the property and to the owner for sure. So I would have to say every time third-party operator, obviously.
Cash flow is king, right? So, buyers buy assets on cash flow. And like I've said before, Mohamad disagrees. But, the numbers are out there. Data is available. Please look at it. And valuations obviously improve if cash flows are great. Vijay sir can tell you all about buying assets. They buy assets based on cash flows, and cash flows are definitely better in the operating model with third-party operations.
So would you personally pay a tighter cap rate on one structure over another?
Cap rates are determined by multiple factors, but I would pay a cap rate, which is appropriate based on the cash flows. And brands add value on valuation, there's no doubt about it, but cash flow is king.
Great. Now let's do a Middle East reality check, right? With so many franchise opportunities coming across Middle East, do you have any advice for owners what they should keep in mind, what factors they should be pushing more towards one model over another?
So Amith, look, operational readiness, ability to deploy resources at a short notice, commitment to numbers, adaptability and flexibility, they are very key. How quickly can an organization or a partner pivot in case of market changes is very important. Are you there, present in the market, to take a call on taking a layover business, or is somebody else taking a decision and that decision cannot be taken at that point in time? I think these are all important factors. Owners are very smart all over the world. In Middle East, they are extremely smart, they are well-read, and they appreciate what we talked about earlier, flexibility and skin in the game. And our skin in the game comes from our incentives being linked mostly with the performance of the asset. And it's not only about, like I said earlier, RevPAR optics, but it's also real GOP numbers and whether you can hit those threshold marks or not. And for us, it would be a financially unviable business if we don't hit those numbers. So contract correctly, make sure that the contracts have those provisions in them, and we will always do this disclosure and give you the right advice.
Great. The next question is actually for the three of you with third-party operators specializing in third-party. So we've discussed around the regional nuances. We've spoken about the operational capability, where you were talking about cost and so on. Let's look at the operating landscape. Now, in terms of third-party operators, what is the speciality additional to what others are bringing in, such as branded residences, spa, restaurants, and bars? Do you think these are elements that the owners are looking for? Do you think a third party should now further equip themselves with additional knowledge, know-how to bring that expertise? Because when an owner is comparing a third party, they're comparing with what the brands are offering, right? So do you think it's pivotal? Is it important?
So what we have as Valor, and speaking for us, is that we obviously lay a great emphasis on food and beverage. A lot of our hotels, and it's something that Olivier had mentioned yesterday, a lot of our hotels actually go up to about 50-55% in revenues coming in from food and beverage. Now that puts pressure on GOPs because all of those in this room would know that food and beverage is slightly less profitable business, in most cases than rooms. Now what that does is that we have to be very smart that balance it out. We as an organization have a separate division for food and beverage within us called 𝐜𝐴VR. 𝐜𝐴VR is specialist food and beverage professionals running food and beverage. And what we do is we actually pitch to the owners on what 𝐜𝐴VR can bring to the table, whether it is leasing out outlets, whether it is bringing in franchise operation of global brands and setting up a team to run that franchise operation, what makes most money per square feet for the owner, whilst ensuring that the GOP margins continue to be strong, the flow-throughs. For us, what's most important is flow-throughs to the bottom line. And to aid that, just to add something, Yousali is a fantastic benchmark and tool that we all use. But Yousali is also created by hoteliers. And we see that sometimes there is misunderstanding and misalignment on the provisions of Yousali. And why I'm touching on this is because what's below GOP line is equally important on what's above the GOP line. And hence, for us as an organization, the final net profit to the owner's pocket is most important. It's not the GOP number.
Great. Any take, Bani or David?
Listen, I think the things that owners like is to have a partner who understands their business. We, like Valor, we have a food and beverage practice, but for us, and we actually manage food and beverage, independent, standalone food and beverage, massive food and beverage standalone outlets. But for me, I don't put a focus on that. I put a focus on what are the added values we provide for the owners, and we focus as an organization more on, the clustering, the shared services that we provide, the training academies that we have, all these benefits that ultimately immediately translate into better guest experience, healthier bottom lines, and this comes with our scale.
Brilliant.
Yeah, and I mean, the same thing applies. I mean, we have in-house recruitment, procurement. I mean, all these things are across the board which help us. But when it comes to sort of the new innovations you're talking about, to Tapan's point and to Bani's, we have a completely separate food and beverage division. I think many people in this room will have experienced our food and beverage. We have award-winning food and beverage. We have one of the best food and beverage people in the business, Mark Patton, and these are all restaurateurs that are running our food and beverage outlets. And we've just stepped into the spa space. In fact, in the recent Middle East Awards, I think it was last week or the week before, our VP for the spa was actually given the award as the best spa person in the Middle East. So we've recognized that is a very, very important part. And it's not just spa, it's health and wellness that we're looking at as we go forward. And these are, because again, these are all centralized. These are people that work for us and work for all our properties. This is something that we can bring to the party. And it does make a huge difference. And it's so important to stay ahead of all the trends that are in the hospitality industry. I mean, in innovation, I mean, our tech stack, we actually build a lot of our own tech. One of the issues that we had was how do we, with all the different brands we work with, how do we actually able to build guests when they go to different hotels, when they go to our beach club or whatever it happens to be. So we built the software that allowed us to do that, which allows all the different micros to speak to each other, and when it comes to reservations, that we have actually a tech that takes those reservations and distributes them to the hotels and the brands. So these things are really important in terms of making the guest experience better. And staying ahead of what is out there and the trends in the market. And that's something I think we do extremely well.
And just add something, Amith, flexibility and this ability of us to pivot does not mean compromising on brand standards. Because we as operators are also gatekeepers of the guest experience, the guest journey, the brand standards, and the owner's interest. To just touch upon something that Manav had mentioned earlier in the day about gyms, for example, and fitness, it's going to be a great thing and it's going to be very important going forward. We're actually tying up with various fitness brands to bring in those fitness brands into the hotels that we are operating so that we can actually start the membership programs for local community, which then benefits the food and beverage. Fitness is going to be really important, whilst making sure that the brand standards of free gym 24/7 is still honored and requested, that breakfast service or takeaway is still available, in-room service, in DTCM checklist is still ticked. All that still needs to be ticked. So that's where the third-party operators can bring in global trends, right commercial sense with local sensibilities, regulatory requirement.
Brilliant, thank you. I know the time's up. Just before we close, any last takeaway, just 5 seconds or 10 seconds each, between performance-linked model versus hybrid? Which one would you prefer and why?
What do you mean by hybrid?
Hybrid would be, if you're looking at, like we were discussing on the tripod, it's the franchise, the third-party operator, versus a performance-linked model.
No, we will definitely go with the franchise with an independent hotel operator. And the reason is, again, a hotel is a real estate that requires really long-term vision. And you need people by your side who understand this business and who can provide you on a day-to-day business basis for the next 10, 15 years, this support to maximize the value of your assets. So without a shadow of a doubt.
Anything anyone wants to build on?
Bani, in the past, used to be the Middle East region and Africa, they don't dominate maybe 3 to 5% in terms of the franchise business model. 95% it was managed. Nowadays, in Africa, it reached around 40%, 35 to 40% franchise business model. In this region, 25, we can see and we witness a huge increase in terms of the franchise business model, which is the franchise with a third-party operator. Yes, I think this synergy and this alignment between the brand and the third-party operator, it's on growth.
One thing, is that owners should sign with an operator who thinks and plans like an asset manager, acts like an operator, and is willing to report like a fiduciary. So if these three things are aligned, the owners have the right partner.
Brilliant.
Whatever they said. I mean, what can I tell
Ladies
you?
and gentlemen, big round of applause for the esteemed panelists.
Thank you.
You said you're going to clear?
Thank you, gentlemen. That was indeed a thoughtful and engaging conversation.